are formidable.
I've waited for this moment.
Welcome to the motherfucking lady. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Another look at TNT Sports partnering with DAZN on monthly boxing series as Paramount prepares to buy parent company Warner Brothers. Paramount might be doubling down on the boxing business with a new monthly series set to launch on TNT. TNT Sports is partnering with DAZN on a new monthly boxing series dubbed The Fight, with the first installment set to debut on July 4th. The series is set to showcase fighters from numerous promotional outfits, including Top Rank, Matchroom, Golden Boy, and Queensberry, among others. Under terms of the agreement, select events are set to air on TNT Sports' U.S. networks, which also includes True TV as well as streaming platforms such as Bleacher Report. DAZN has earned a strong reputation within the boxing community, and this will allow TNT Sports to be a player in the growing sport, expanding the reach of these events and the moments surrounding them to an even broader audience. Louis Silberwasser, chairman and CEO of TNT Sports, said in a statement, "This builds on a successful production and commercial partnership with DAZN to showcase the FIFA Club World Cup last summer and further expands TNT Sports' portfolio of year-round premium sports content. The deal is specific to the United States only as far as broadcasts go. Boxing had largely fallen off major networks in the United States after Top Rank's deal with ESPN ended in the summer of last year. Perhaps the most interesting part about this partnership is that Paramount is closing a deal to buy Warner Brothers and all of the company's assets, which includes TNT. Paramount struck a multi-year agreement with Zuffa Boxing, the promotion headed up by UFC CEO Dana White and WWE President Nick Khan, with all events currently airing on Paramount+. So does it pose a conflict of interest that Paramount is very much invested in Zuffa, who's currently in competition with all the promoters on DAZN? DAZN, who just inked a deal with TNT. TNT, whose parent company is about to get bought out by Paramount. TNT is also expected to merge with CBS Sports, a Paramount-owned network, before the close of the year. That means Paramount could have two major boxing entities on the same brand of networks, assuming that Warner Brothers' deal closes in the near future. I don't read too much into this. I understand the potential for some relationships to be better than others, the potential for some metrics to be better than others. But all I really take away from this is that Paramount very much wants to be involved in the sport of boxing and use it to diversify their catalog of sports. Technically, they were already in boxing via Showtime and their PBC programming. But the way the PBC were doing things on Showtime, there was nothing sustainable about that. So they did what they had to do and shed the excess, the dead weight. Now they're back, albeit under different circumstances in boxing with different people. It's no secret that Dana White has butted heads with several promoters since Zuffa Boxing first launched, including a memorable war of words with Matchroom Boxing's Eddie Hearn and Golden Boy's Oscar De La Hoya. Now programming from both companies are expected to live under the same company banner. The new partnership between TNT and DAZN also includes cross-promotion, marketing, and advertising sales, as well as working together on pay-per-view events and subscription programming, in addition to the monthly events with The Fight. What is set to be TNT's boxing sector, the basic idea here is to bring casual eyes, casual observers to the DAZN platform by exposing TNT's audience to their content. We've been all through that, though Paramount Plus being the overseer of it all this happening under their umbrella, the Zuffa stuff, the DAZN TNT stuff. Is there any room for partiality and a conflict of interest? Yeah, generally speaking, there's always room for stuff like that when so much is happening under one umbrella. But I wouldn't read too much into it. All I really see is that Paramount's stake in the sport of boxing just got a little bit bigger. And it's good for us. I think it's good for boxing. It's more of an effort to advertise boxing to different demographics on different platforms to grow that audience. I look at it as a good thing overall. The more areas that boxing starts to show up in day-to-day life, the more it enters the general population's consciousness and subconsciousness, that everywhere you look, There's a signature. There's a little bit of boxing there. There's boxing on Paramount. There's boxing on TNT, on DAZN, social media boxing, influencer boxing. Consider it a little nudge, inching it further and further back into the mainstream to hopefully reach the mainstream audience. Over to the men's super lightweight division, where the IBF clarifies Richardson Hitchins' title position after his Zuffa boxing move. Richardson Hitchins' recent decision to align himself with Zuffa Boxing prompted World Boxing News to seek clarification from the IBF regarding the champion's immediate title obligations. Hitchins became the latest fighter, connected to manager Keith Connolly, to move towards the new promotional venture following the breakdown of relations between Connolly and matchroom boss Eddie Hearn, as both the IBF super lightweight champion and Edgar Berlanga followed Conor Benn to the Zuffa project, with Hitchins now attached to that structure. WBN asked the sanctioning body to confirm where the situation stands regarding Hitchins's mandated defense. The Federation confirmed the process is already underway. He's got to fight Lindolfo Delgado, per their order. Richardson Hitchins was ordered to negotiate for his mandated defense of the title against #1 and mandatory challenger Lindolfo Delgado on February 23rd, the IBF told World Boxing News. The parties had until March 24th to reach an agreement. Both sides agreed to 2 extensions, which took the negotiation to April 7th. On April 9th, a purse bid was ordered for April 21st. The timeline simply places Hitchins where most IBF champions eventually find themselves, defending the title against the division's leading contender. However, the wider attention surrounding his promotional alignment has already drawn focus following events earlier this year involving cruiserweight champion Jai Opetaia. The IBF withdrew sanction for Opetaia's bout with Brendan Glenton once the contest was publicly promoted for the quote-unquote Zuffa World Cruiserweight title. That ruling effectively established the IBF's position regarding rival championship structures connected to the promotion. The fallout also raised questions about whether the situation could complicate Zuffa's attempts to attract reigning champions. I'm a little bit surprised Richardson Hitchins is still IBF champion. We all know that he's tight at the weight and he wants to move up to welter, fighting Lindolfo Delgado in defense of that belt that he has no intention of unifying. He's not going on an undisputed run. Even if he wins the fight with Lindolfo and keeps the belt, he's just going to end up dropping it anyway. Richardson Hitchins being an IBF champion means less to him, I think, than it meant to Jai Opetaia. For Opetaia himself, the episode placed the cruiserweight star at a crossroads as he weighed his long-term ambition of becoming undisputed against the realities of operating outside of boxing's traditional sanctioning framework. Leaving his Zuffa future in doubt, Opetaia remains aligned with Zuffa, but has made no public comment on losing the title he was so proud to hold. His precedent now forms part of the backdrop to Hitchins' situation. Yeah, but Hitchins ain't trying to be undisputed. The IBF stance in the Opetaia case demonstrated that the Federation is willing to enforce its championship rules even when the circumstances involve a major promotional venture, despite legal threats from Zuffa Boxing that have yet to fully surface publicly. The sanctioning body maintained its position and ultimately vacated the title unless the regulatory landscape changes, something that could occur if the proposed Muhammad Ali Expansion Act passes the U.S. Senate. The same framework remains in place. Under current rules, if an IBF champion participates in a contest promoted around a rival championship belt within the division's weight limit, the title is automatically forfeit. For Hitchins, though, the immediate issue is far more conventional. The mandatory challenger is Lindolfo Delgado, a top-ranked fighter who is not part of the Zuffa roster. That creates a practical complication regarding where the fight might ultimately take place. If Zuffa intends to stage the contest under its banner, the promotion would likely need to win the scheduled purse bid or reach a separate agreement with Top Rank to place Delgado on the event. Should that happen, Hitchins could still defend his IBF title within the Zuffa banner. That's how I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be Zuffa that ends up paying for that fight. I can't see Top Rank frittering away dollars, most of which are going to go to Richardson Hitchins as the champion. He's entitled to the lion's share. Why are they going to burn cash for that fight that isn't even that hot a ticket? That guy ain't been looking good his last few fights. Hitchins could still defend his IBF title within the Zuffa framework, provided the contest is not promoted around a competing title, something the Federation has indicated it would allow. In layman's terms, Hitchins isn't fighting for any inaugural Zuffa titles, so they're not going to strip him like they stripped Jai Opataya. They'll let the fight happen, even if Zuffa's the one promoting it. If the purse bid goes the other way, the situation becomes even simpler, with Hitchins potentially defending his title on Bob Arum-promoted show instead. Either way, the IBF's confirmation makes one point clear. The same playbook that reshaped Jai Opataya's reign remains firmly in place when the sanction and body champions align with Zuffa. It's the irony that gets me. The irony of Hitchins being allowed to keep his IBF title that he had no plans of doing anything with, while Jai, who did have plans, being stripped. He's the guy they take the belt from, the one who's not going anywhere, the one who wanted to unify, become undisputed. Boxing has a way of punishing the fighters who want to do things the right way. Hitchins' title reign really isn't something you need to overthink, because I don't think it'll last beyond the Lindolfo-Delgado fight, win or lose. If he loses, then Lindolfo gets the belt, but even if he wins and keeps the belt, it won't be for very long, because I anticipate he will eventually be integrated into Zuffa's welterweight division that they are still putting together. So it's all much ado about nothing.
I'll tell you a story, because Dana White's relevant. About 2 contracts ago, the media ran a story. AJ in talks with Dana White. And I'm like, the fuck?
Right.
So it's in the paper, right? So I go and see AJ, and we've got a media thing, and I went, yo, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, he called me out of the blue. And I'm like, what? And he went, I told him straight away, I said, I'm with Eddie. He said, but we had a good chat, like we talked for like half an hour, because AJ likes to listen, and so I'm like, what?
Did it make you feel like,
yeah,
like, oh, shit,
no, but
man.
I was like, what? And then, funnily enough, about 6 months later, I went to Dana's office and we had a meeting. And I said, oh, I hear you spoke to AJ. He said, yeah, and you know something, he said to me? Within the first 5 seconds, just to let you know, I'm not leaving Eddie. He's my guy, but let's talk. He goes, and I respected that. I was like, wow. Like,
wow, yeah.
And he's been offered deals along the way when our contract had come to an end that were much better short-term money options for him.
Right.
And when you looked at them, again, fur coat, no knickers, when you looked at the outset, you were like, wow. But then it was like, oh, you got to do this, and it's a 5-year deal, and blah, blah, blah.
Extension.
But he never even, it was like, let me look at that. It was just like, no, I'm with Eddie. So whatever, but Eddie can look at it. And you know, and I've got so much respect for him, because there's a few fighters, probably a handful of fighters, that I feel the same way about, like AJ, that I would literally, like, in an empty room with 1 or 2 people, they'd have you back in a conversation.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And in life, you know, there ain't a lot of people like that.
That's true.
Especially in a game like boxing. So I will always be indebted to him, not just as a company, because he's helped us, and he's now a shareholder in my business because of what he's done for me and the company.
I don't think there is anything inherently wrong with Dana White making a play for Anthony Joshua, him approaching him. Because that's just the way that the industry works. That's the nature of the beast. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and sometimes you have to show some teeth. Dana White in that situation would not have done anything to Eddie Hearn that Eddie Hearn hasn't already done to other promoters. Or do you think it's a coincidence that immediately following Canelo Alvarez's departure from Golden Boy, he went right over to Matchroom? You don't think that they had one or some conversations beforehand about such a move? And what about Virgil Ortiz? What came out as a result of the court proceedings he's having with Golden Boy. If he would have been able to break away from Golden Boy and enter free agency, he was going to jump into bed with Matchroom. Same question. You don't think that they had one or some conversations beforehand about such a move? Of course they did. Eddie Hearn poaching Canelo Alvarez and attempting to poach Virgil Ortiz is right in line with Dana White attempting to poach Anthony Joshua, and I don't see anything inherently wrong with that, but it does accent something else, something I've been telling you about. Their reliance on what other promoters have built. Dana White has long been critical of the industry of boxing and all the promoters within it, but you seem to be relying on those promoters to launch your promotion. The brand power that they built with the fighters that they developed when you pick up a Hitchins and attempt to pick up a Teofimo Lopez, a Chris Billum Smith, a Jayo Pataya. It's not for no reason. It's because some of the work has already been done by other promotional outfits.
The ones you claim to be so much better than.
I told you guys on repeat, weeks and months ago, Zuffa Boxing may have a sizable war chest, a lot of money and smart people behind them, but ultimately, it's gonna boil down to know-how.
Because no matter if Mark Shapiro or Nick Khan or Dana White or Turkey El Sheikh himself is involved, you're still selling the same thing as everybody else. You're still selling boxing.
No matter the size of your conglomerate and its resources, you're still selling boxing. And I don't think any of you know how to do that better than a Bob Arum, than an Eddie Hearn, than a Frank Warren.
Not even better than an Oscar De La Hoya, no.
So when you make the big acquisitions and the big headlines and you signed this fighter and all of that, when the dust settles and everybody's calmed down, it's gonna boil down to know-how. How much of this market you can actually corner. This is not mixed martial arts. This is not a fledgling sport, a new sport where you develop a market. The market here is already established. You're just trying to figure out how much of it you can corner, because what you can't do is have it all to yourself. Boxing is too big, too fragmented for that.
When you try to pick up Anthony Joshua, Eddie Hearn and Matchroom's as Golden Goose, all that really communicates to me is you don't really trust that you can do that on your own. Develop a fighter from the ground up on your own, like they did with him.
This approach is not new or unique to Dana White and Zuffa Boxing, because Ben Shalom and Boxer already tried this. They already did it. Upon the inception of their deal with Sky Sports that has now ended, they targeted Matchroom fighters and Matchroom fighters specifically. They didn't go after Frank's boys.
And girls.
No, you went after Joshua Buatsi. You went after Lorenzo Coley, Savannah Marshall, Natasha Jonas.
Chris Billum Smith.
They went after fighters that were known for fighting under the Matchroom banner. That banner specifically because they wanted to replicate Matchroom's success. And I think that Zuffa Boxing is doing the same thing.
That approach didn't work for Ben Shalom and Boxer. In the end, when their Sky Sports deal ended, Sky Sports did not renew. So what are the chances that that same approach would work for Zuffa?
I will admit that I think Zuffa Boxing is run by better and smarter people than Boxer is, but they are doing what Boxer did.
Could end up with the same result.
Picking up fighters that used to fight under the Matchroom banner does not give you Matchroom's know-how, their understanding of the sport, what to look for, and how to properly groom a fighter and develop a fighter and promote a fighter.
What have I been telling you? There's all this hullabaloo about who's behind Zuffa Boxing and what they're doing and what they're trying to do, but in the end, it's all going to boil down to know-how.
Zuffa has a lot to compete with so many of the major promotional outfits all converging on the DAZN platform in tandem with the recent TNT partnership that will air some of DAZN's cards on their channel.
I'm not against Zuffa. I'm not rooting for them to fail, but I know they have their work cut out for them because familiarity is very important in the sport of boxing, and Zuffa doesn't have that.